Is graffiti art or a crime? Whether graffiti art is art or a crime is a big question that's been being asked for many, many years.
Graffiti has been around for many years. However, in recent years, it's become a very big cultural phenomenon, being used from small, simple drawings on walls to very large campaigns. One of these artists who has been doing it for a long, long time is Kelzo. He's based in Manchester, and he's agreed to tell us his experiences in the graffiti world, ranging from the small to the very, very large.
Graffiti art comes from a subculture in New York and the east coast of America where people wrote their names on trains, on walls, in places to be heard. Graffiti is a crime when it's done in places that you're not allowed to do it. Graffiti is not a crime when you get permission, and graffiti is also an art form in this day and age, the year 2013, and for the last 20 years has been used, even longer has been used in marketing campaigns by big corporations all over the world to advertise their own product. So the question, is graffiti art or a crime, is not a question that goes from authorities to graffiti artists or people in power to people who like to be creative. It's a question that everyone in the world who uses graffiti for their own means to take responsibility in answering.
As Kelso highlighted, it can be a very fine line. With large marketing campaigns wanting a graffiti to sprawl across a building, it can get a public's eye very easily and can be quite controversial.
I'm working for Timberland and I've worked for Tommy Hilfiger, Vodafone, Motorola and thousands of big corporations where I've advertised their products, and at the end of the day, you know, do I still get judged as being someone who paints in places I shouldn't? Yeah. When I've actually, you know, why don't all them people get called up about it?
It does seem to bounce back to the artist. The Thirsty Scholar is a prime example of graffiti being in a grey area of whether it should be there or not. It is located under Oxford Road Station railway arches and is a pub primarily located for the busy rush hour workers. It has graffiti painted across its walls, which has been done by quite a few artists, allowed by the Thirsty Scholar team to promote and liven up its beer garden. Sadly though, the council do not approve, since it is in a public space of which technically the arches are council's property, as it is a Grade 2 public building. They have had many signatures signed on a petition to keep the graffiti, but when they bring the required amount to the council increase the amount of signatures needed. It is a weird situation though, as just down the road, on the same arches, there is some more graffiti. This graffiti is part of the Eurocultured event, which is an arts and music festival that happens every year, which the Thirsty Scholar also involves itself in. The graffiti here is repainted every year to the knowledge of the council, who say it livens up the area, which is why it's odd that the Thirsty Scholar's work is not allowed. To see how illegal graffiti is dealt with, we went to the MMU security team to get an idea on the situation of how they handle it.
It tends not to be the artistic tagging side that we suffer with. It's more the, you know, just spraying some random initials or on rather than what you class as. I mean, I know, you know, when you drive around areas you can see where somebody's obviously got a bit of an artistic talent. Yeah. They shouldn't have perhaps done it where they've done it. It's not been signed off by the property owner or whatever. But at least there's some artistic talent in it. But we tend not to get that. It tends to be more this random, just pointless graffiti that just ends up in the
banks imitating.
You know.
No, people are just doing it for the hell of it, really, aren't they?
You know, and
plus as well, if it was really kind of controversial in terms of sort of sexist or racist or something, that would have to be shifted pretty damn quick.
And then the cost escalates because obviously we're asking for
a speedy.
1,000 might suddenly become 2,000, you know, for that one-time job because it's a rush job. So that's how it impacts on the university. You know, don't do it randomly. You know, maybe with a bit of thought we can actually direct somebody to where we're happy for them to sort of see if we can sort of extend their instincts to whatever building we can provide or what. And like I say, the council have obviously done it from in terms of the dire state of the subways at the Van Mancunian Way there, because what was there before was really drab and sort of disgusting looking, wasn't it, and dirty, whereas
it's really artistic.
If you put some artistic pieces of work in there, I suppose it makes it...
But seeing as graffiti has been interwoven into some cultures, it's one of the only things kids can do to express themselves. We asked Kelso to give us an idea of what it was like growing up with graffiti.
1984, when I was a young kid, the whole culture of hip-hop, breakdancing, graffiti and b-boying had hit Europe on a huge scale, and most young people around Europe were heavily into it, and that's what we all did. We got together, we went to places in town and places in the city where people would converge and breakdancing battles and write our names on places and try to get our name up more than each other, like a game. And some of us would also take the initiative to try and create a really nice funky depiction of our names, which is blockbuster letter types and colour fillings, and you know, that's how I got into it. And at the time everyone was into it, and at the time it was an amazing part to be part of that culture.
With that in mind, we took an account to see whether a large public area is available for graffiti to be used, and people aren't just forced to do it wherever they can. The Outhouse project was created back in 2010. It is located in the northern quarter at Stevenson Square. It is a special place for graffiti, as it has been signed off by the council as a legal wall for the group to paint over as they please, as long as they don't do any offensive material. It is still used as a bus stop today, which makes it a perfect example of artists using public spaces as a canvas for their work. Every 3 months, they repaint the 3 blocks that make up the area, which allows for many artists to express themselves how they please, such as the Crim Collective here. An artist who is very good at getting his point across, and usually in very controversial ways, and usually very, very public, is Banksy. Since Kelso is quite a strong artist, we asked if he could give his opinions on the way Banksy works.
So the thing about Banksy is a kind of graffiti artist who, after so many years of being involved in a graffiti scene where everyone who's doing graffiti in this country, which was a few hundred people who were committed to it and lived it and dedicated to the whole culture, they were all sort of like very similar in styles, and it was always about who might be the best. Yeah. So some graffiti artists who got their own level of wisdom and intelligence from other forms would have thought, you know, what can I do to really stand out? What can I do in the graffiti world to make a difference, to be different than everybody else? So I think, not speaking for Banksy, but his work is very politically driven and very comical at the same time, and takes the piss out of the authorities, but also shows the harsh reality of a kind of authoritative type world that we're living in, where we've got very little choices of our own freedom and expression. So as much as Banksy has a lot of comedy and a lot of controversy within his artwork, the combinations made him a global icon in the art world and in the graffiti art world, which is commendable and is something I've got a lot of respect for him for. If you look at the graffiti that's behind us here, it's people who have got their own name, they've drawn their own name in their own style, and it means nothing to nobody except the person who's done it. As with Banksy, when he draws 2 male coppers kissing, or he draws you know, the monkeys on the side of the train saying that they're going to take over the world, it's all very, it makes you think. It was an amazing time back then, 1984, 1985, right up until 1987, and the thing about getting into the graffiti culture then, it was the time in my life when I was 15, and you don't even feel important when you come from a kind of rundown, impoverished kind of environment, and you know, you're a Hollywood star amongst friends and people that you've made friends. So in the city, when you go into the city, there's 200 people converging outside Burger King where Primark is now, and people are really excited to see you, and that was the beginning of you understanding what life's about. And that's where I fell in love with the culture of hip-hop and graffiti and the positivity that comes from it, and is the reason why I'm still doing it today.
Art or crime? That question really no longer exists. After looking at examples, we've seen that there's always a much deeper meaning to the work, depending on who the artist is. Ranging from the vulgar, offensive tagging which they just want to get their name heard, or the artistic side, such as Kelso, who try to express themselves but only allowed to do so on the canvas of the world around them. The authorities, they say technically it's all a crime, but they tend to be quite lenient depending on the work anyway. So art or crime, I wouldn't say really exists anymore. It's not really a question of art or crime, it's down to what you think.